Hey everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of EnjoyRC, and we're here in the new workshop. And with this first episode in the new place, we're kicking it off with an ABC Hobby chassis. In my previous video I've given you all a quick tour through my new workshop. It's still work in progress, but I'm super happy that I'm able to do some videos again. I mentioned that there was a box upstairs right above me here full of parts from Japan that I wanted to do a quick video on. I haven't done an unboxing yet because I think I've done too many of those in the past, and I wanted to give you a quick look at one of my cars. So this is an ABC Hobby Carrera IV. It's a chassis from 1997. It's quite interesting. It has a couple of quirky design features on it that I'll show you in a bit. And in the box from Japan was not this chassis, but a couple upgrades that I have right here. So before diving into the build and putting the upgrades on this chassis, I want to tell you a little bit about ABC Hobby. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'll leave that for another video. But basically this chassis right here is, as far as I know, the only full-size touring car chassis that ABC Hobby has ever made. They released this in 1997 as a full-size touring car and as a mini. It was simply called the Carrera IV Mini, quite easy. But basically the Carrera name has been around for quite a while. It showed up for the first time in the 80s. ABC Hobby used to make a lot of 1/12 scale cars, and even some very well-known drivers such as Masami Hirosaka, who's a 14-time world champion, actually started out with driving ABC Hobby cars. I have a couple of them. First of all, let me quickly grab one. So first of all, there's this one that I have, which is also shown in one of the older unboxing videos. It's the Carrera M101. So this is basically a 1/12 scale car, but they've changed it slightly in terms of the wheelbase and the hex adapters and a few other things to make it an M chassis. And speaking of M chassis, I have another ABC Hobby, and this is my ABC Hobby Gambado, which is a front-wheel drive M chassis, so also pretty much 1/12 scale basically. And this is the 2014 naked version, as they called it. And that means in ABC Hobby terms that it is a almost fully upgraded chassis. So there's a basic plastic one, and then there's this one, the naked version, and there's a couple different iterations of it. And basically this one comes with an aluminium motor mount, carbon fiber chassis, upgraded dampers, a few other little bits and pieces here and there. And this is such an awesome car to drive. I've been driving it for years, and it still feels fast. It's still able to beat a couple of other M chassis, so this one's great. But this one's quite a bit newer. So the Carrera name line basically got cancelled after this one, the Carrera IV. So this was the last one, as far as I know, with the Carrera name. But as you can see from the other one, the M101, the Carrera name has been there for a while. Right, so about the Carrera IV specifically. So this chassis is quite an interesting design. Being from 1997, it's actually quite far ahead of its time, I would say. Around that time we had popular cars such as the HPI RS4, which was, I think, one of the first to sort of have that belt drive design layout as we've had from the late 90s all through the beginning of the 2000s. A lot of other cars got based on sort of a similar layout, like in the end also the TRF 414. But a chassis like this with such a low center of gravity, that was quite unique at the time. Maybe a shaft drive car, but even those, not really. So this one's actually quite special in terms of its design. The cool thing about it, and which immediately tells you that this is all about the low center of gravity, is that the entire chassis sort of sits in between the wheels in terms of height, I mean. So the top deck is actually much lower than the top of the wheels, and everything else has sort of been sandwiched in between the chassis. So all of the weight is relatively down low. You can also tell from the dampers being laid down pretty flat. Then basically the belt goes all the way around everything inside of the chassis. So on the bottom you can see that the belt actually travels through the center of the chassis deck, underneath the motor mount, underneath the servo. So it's going all the way around, and here on the top is pretty much the same story. The way they did this is by having a 2-belt system, but one belt going from the rear diff to the front diff, and then another belt going from the center shaft to the rear diff. So the rear diff actually has 2 belts on it, 2 pulleys, which is quite a unique design feature. Other than that, it's not too special. The aluminium dampers are pretty normal. It does have the same steering knuckles front and rear. So in the rear you can set active toe in, active toe out. You can change a lot of different settings, which would be a bit more difficult with fixed suspension mounts and so on. It does make it easier for driving, because if you break a knuckle, they're the same on all 4 corners. So you just need to keep one set of spares, and they're all the same parts, which makes it quite easy. So that is basically it on the Carrera IV. Let's take a look at the upgrades that I got for this Carrera IV. This is a basic version of the chassis. It does have an aluminium motor mount already. Other than that, it's stock as far as I know. There was a Pro version of this car, and that's pretty much the parts that I got for this car. Let's open the box. I cheated a little bit and I went through it before filming this video already. So the main thing that I got were the carbon fiber bottom and upper deck, as you can see here. So I gave it a once over already with some fine sandpaper on the top and the bottom of the decks, and gave it a quick clear coat as well, buffed it so it looks relatively new. There's a couple chips here and there, but usually I don't really care about those kind of things. I'd rather have a car with a bit of character than something that's brand new and I don't really dare to touch even. So the carbon fiber decks, then inside is also a bag full of little parts. Most of these are from the Pro version, so I don't have everything to make this a complete Pro chassis, but I can get close. So there's the nerf guards, then let me just put it out here on the table. There are a couple of axles that I already have in the car, so they're not very special and they go straight back into the box. But there's also universal shafts for the front, so that's actually nice. That's an upgrade. What else? So there's aluminium dog bones, purple ones. I don't think they're originally ABC, but I'm not sure where they came from. But I'll put these in as well. They are used, but they're not in too bad of a condition. They actually look pretty decent. All the shafts and stuff are still nice and round. Nothing's been worn out. So these I'll put in too. And then there are the 4 aluminium standoffs that go between the upper and lower deck. 2 of them are perfect, 2 of them are a bit chewed up. I think someone used some pliers to grip them while unscrewing the screw from the top or bottom, and sort of damaged them a little. So yeah, like I said, I don't really mind these kind of chips and dings and all these little issues. I like a car that has a bit of character, that has a story, and putting this together from parts actually makes a nice story for myself as well. Lastly, there is a complete suspension set inside the box, front and rear arms. Like I said, they're exactly the same front and rear, so that makes it easy. These come with what looks like Delrin or Teflon white suspension balls in here, but I'm missing a couple of the metal bits. So I'm not going to bother with these, except for the Teflon or Delrin balls. They're exactly the same as what's already on the car. What's on the car is actually brand new, so I'll keep these, and I'll stay on the hunt for the aluminium suspension balls, pink or red ones, that are ABC Hobby original, so I'll be on the hunt for those. There's a spare belt set in here, so basically I'll end up with a couple of spare parts, which is nice in case I ever get a second one of these cars. But these are the bits I'll put in, so the top and bottom deck, the nerve protectors, and then a couple of the aluminium bits and the shafts. So yeah, let's get cracking and open the chassis up. Right, I am now halfway through disassembling the Carrera IV, and a couple things to mention already. First of all, the pillow ball suspension mounts that it has, They are such a cool design, but man, they're a pain in the behind to get them on and off. Luckily I was able to use some pliers to grip onto the pillow balls just enough without damaging them, but to have enough grip to actually unscrew them. Everything's screwed down with these self-tapping screws, which makes it quite difficult. Another thing, and this actually counts for anyone who's building a Tamiya kit as well, the screws that you often find on a Japanese touring car chassis or any Japanese RC car, they might look like Phillips head screws, but they're actually not. These are called JIS, Japanese Industrial Standard or something, I think. You can always recognize them because they have a tiny little dot next to the cross pattern on the screw. And for this you actually need a different screwdriver, which I don't have. I've been using this flathead actually for years already for all of my Tamiya kits, and it's working, but it's not very nice. So if you're working on a chassis like this or any Tamiya chassis, get yourself a proper set of JIS screwdrivers, because you'll be so much happier trying to work on any of these cars. Last thing to mention is that the upper bulkheads, actually all of the bulkheads are a two-piece design, so the bottom half and top half sort of enclose the bearing for the differentials. They are just like the suspension, they are the exact same piece, both left and right, front and rear. So whatever ABC Hobby did to make these molds, they were super clever because they were able to use pretty much a handful of parts to assemble this entire chassis, which is super clever and usually keeps the cost down a little bit as well. So that's quite cool. What I'm going to do now is actually assemble the top deck, the brand new used, but to me new carbon fiber top deck, before disassembling the bottom deck, just so I can sort of keep the car in one piece. So right, let's get to it. The upper deck is on, the body posts are attached, the upper suspension mounts are back on, and it's already starting to look pretty cool. Just going from a flat black, super flexible FRP upper deck to this shiny, almost brand new looking carbon fiber upper deck is really making this car look a lot more serious than it was before. So now we still have the front shafts left, the rear dog bones still have to go in, and the bottom deck has to go on. So yeah, let's do that. And that's it. The carbon fiber parts, the shafts, everything is on the chassis, and it looks incredible. It looks so much more like a professional race car now. And actually the surface detailing that I did on the carbon fiber actually came out pretty good. So it looks almost brand new. Couple issues with the build. Most of all, the pillow balls on the bottom, they were a pain in the butt to get out. I did find a quick trick to actually get them off. Basically, they are held in by a screw tightening the plastic around the pillow ball. If you just tighten the screw all the way, it clamps onto the pillow ball, and then you can unscrew them from the bottom. So maybe this was something that was actually in the manual at some point. I don't know, I don't have one, but yeah, I guess this is what you learn from rebuilding your chassis once in a while. So yeah, I'm very excited about having this upgraded version of the ABC Carrera now in my collection. I hope you've enjoyed this build. I hope you've enjoyed some of the information about this particular car, and if you want to know more, feel free to post a comment underneath this video, and I'll try and dig into the history of ABC Hobby and this car for you. Right, so that's it for this build. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!